Thank you so much for joining us in today's episode of The Best of Raleigh. I am so excited to bring you today's guest. He is doing amazing things. I am here with Hayes Permar, and we are talking about the revitalization of the Rialto Theatre. And for those of you who don't know, it is one of the oldest theaters in the Triangle. It's at 87 years old, and it was shuttered just a year ago and was closing down. And Hayes, an unlikely theater owner, has now taken it over and has revitalized it, and I'm so looking forward to sharing all the details about the theater with you and what they've got going on and some interesting stories.
Welcome to the Best of Raleigh with your host and real estate expert, Gretchen Coley, owner of the Coley Group. This show is all about the people and places that make the Raleigh area so special. Here's your host, Gretchen Coley.
So Hayes, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. There's part of me that I'm like, I need everybody to talk to me in like 3 years when it's totally a success. Like right now, it's still a work in progress, but I understand the love of the Rialto and people want to talk about it, and I'm super excited to talk about it as well.
The work in progress is the beautiful part of it, right? The success story, the comeback. People love a comeback, and this is the epitome of a comeback. And, you know, I've just had a couple conversations with you here, but you obviously love this theater. So tell us a little bit about growing up and going to the theater and your journey to get here.
Yep. So I grew up probably about a half a mile from the theater in Hayes Barton. My mom still lives over there by White Memorial Church. And then I live about a quarter mile of it from it now. So a couple of things are true. One, even if this were a really cool old theater, but it was located somewhere across town, it probably would not have had the appeal to me. And then two, I can't imagine starting a theater from scratch without the branding that the Rialto has. It's one of the luckiest things I have. It's like I'm trying to sell a theater that people already love and have an affinity for, right? So I have an affinity for it. I grew up, like I said, about half a mile away. My parents and I could walk to the theater. I was the third child, so I think they were tired of getting babysitters. By the time I was, they were like, "You're just coming with us. We're not, you know." So we would go see, there'd be foreign films, and sometimes I'd have to read subtitles, and sometimes I hear the names of movies that I'm like, I saw there, but I didn't really understand that because I was only 9 years old. The one that really put an impression on me was in, it's probably 1994, maybe 30 years ago now. I'm a sophomore in high school, not cool enough to have plans every weekend. And my dad was pretty religious. If something was well reviewed in the Independent and playing at the Rialto, then he was going to go see it, right? If it got 5 stars in the Independent. So this movie called Pulp Fiction, which was a weird name, never heard of it, didn't know anything about Quentin Tarantino, wasn't a movie buff, nerd at my age. So it was me and another friend, maybe even 2 other friends. And we were like, we don't have anything else to do. Dad's like, do you want to go see this movie? Like, all right, sure. We had no idea what we were in for. And then obviously, minutes into the film, we're blown away. And so that's one of the ones that I always remember. One cool thing I remember about watching is if that first scene when John Travolta is describing how much cooler everything is in Europe, and everybody remembers the Le Big Mac and that stuff. But one thing he says is, he was like, in Amsterdam, you can just go to a movie theater and get a glass of beer. And at that time, the Rialto was the only movie theater I knew of that had one. So there was sort of like a little chuckle in the room of like people being like, hey, we can get a glass of beer here. And that always had an impression on me too. It was a cooler theater. It's a place you could drink a glass of beer, drink a glass of wine. I felt like as a kid, I was cooler than I was hanging out with adults. And so my affinity for it started from my parents taking me there, but I really remember that Pulp Fiction experience.
Sounds like it was a little bit ahead of its time, yet still a neighborhood theater.
Yes, 100%. In serving alcohol, which I know like that isn't the most novel thing, but it just made it feel like a different place than movie theaters that were making a little more big brand, tacky. This felt a little homier, get a draft beer or whatever. But then at the same time, and I was a little too young for the golden age of concerts at the Rialto. In the late 80s into the early 90s, I would hear about my older sisters and their friends going to see the Connells or Johnny Quest play at the Rialto. And so I saw a couple concerts there, again, probably with my parents, like the Red Clay Ramblers, more like folk Americana stuff. I didn't go to the big rock shows like some of my cooler peers. But that also made an impression on me of, this is a place where cool things happen. The Rocky Horror Picture Show, another one where it was almost a mystique to me. I had some of my theater friends be like, no, this is a cool thing. You can do it. And I'm like, I don't know, this isn't my crowd. But it's just one of the things that makes Raleigh.
Yeah.
I like to tell people, you can't say you're from Raleigh unless you've done Rocky Horror at the Rialto.
I agree.
That
100%.
goes for you too. So
Yes,
all right.
absolutely. I agree. So what's your favorite memory from your childhood at the theater?
Let's see.
Was there a first kiss there?
No, I wasn't cool enough, and at that point I was probably going to see like the big box pictures out at Pleasant Valley Promenade. The fondest memory is the old blue chairs. The ones we have now are very comfortable, and it's funny the impression it makes on people. People come in now. I've realized this in taking over a new project and doing some renovations. It's amazing what people think is new and isn't, just based on when they walk in. They're like, "This is brand new," and you're like, "I don't need to correct them. If they think it's new, great." But everyone thinks of these old blue, boxy, very springy, very rocky seats that used to be in there, and they've been gone for a long time. But I have this just distinct memory, and every time when I find a stack of old photos, because there's stuff everywhere in corners of that place, I'll see pictures of the blue chairs, and I'm like, that memory that's what going to the movies with my parents. I remember the blue chairs, probably because I was barely seeing them.
Yeah, you're ducked down behind them. So you came from a background of sports broadcasting.
Yep.
You also run a very popular podcast here in Raleigh.
Thank you.
So how do you end up, deciding that you've got the confidence to go take over this theater?
It's a great
Pretty
question.
Impressive.
Because I've no experience, and I think I was telling you beforehand, part of the confidence came from every time I talked to somebody and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this," even though it sounds crazy. And in my head, there was a little voice saying, like, "You can do this." Yeah. But I definitely wasn't, confident enough to stand and say, "I can do this." But when I talk to friends or just casual people and I've said, "I'm thinking about doing this," they'd say, "Hayes, I think you're the perfect person to do this." And even many of these people knew that I didn't have the experience and would have to learn. One thing that's cool, though, you talk about my sports background. I didn't graduate from college. I didn't know what I wanted to do at that time, and I didn't know what I wanted to study. But I was smart enough to, I almost call it like apprenticeships. Yeah. I would, I wanted to be a sports writer at first. And so I just called up the Durham Herald-Sun when I was living in Chapel Hill. I was supposed to be taking classes. I was dropping out of school. But I would call the Herald-Sun and be like, "Don't you use like just extra people on Friday nights to go cover football games?" And they're like, "Yeah, we do." And I was like, "I want to do that." And they're like, "All right." And that led to then covering games during the week and then working at the newspaper and learning how to do some layout stuff. And so my sports background was sort of just jumping in, finding apprenticeships. Same thing with video and radio. I went to a radio station. I was like, "Don't you need people for like the late at night games or whatever? Like, let me start there and just learn some things." So while I didn't have any experience in running a theater, I did have experience in doing things without having experience, right? Of like learning of like, hey, the best thing you got to do is just get in there, learn as much as you can from the people around you, find the people that are experts and say, "Hey, talk me through everything. I'll only take in 5% the first time. Tell me what these 2 buttons do to get started, and then later on, I'll be like, what about these 4 buttons?" And eventually, so things that have seemed scary, and I worked in radio for a long time, and I produced a radio show, and at one point in time, I could get to where I'm talking to an engineer in the door about something that I need for him to fix, talking to somebody on the phone that's calling into the show. I'm listening to the radio host and adjusting his volume and queuing up the next thing that's supposed to be coming in, like making hand signals at an intern about what to post online. And I remember when I started that job, I was terrified about doing any one of those things. And then you get to the point where you do them all seamlessly. And so you know what it's like to go through something, being scared and knowing nothing of what you're doing and realizing you'll get through it, you'll learn, and then you'll come out the other side and you'll look back and be like, "Man, remember when I didn't know how to do this?" Now, I am still very much in the process where I'm scared and I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I have not gotten to the point where everything's working seamlessly. But there are things that have come. I know how to run a digital movie projector now. Now I still need help when I hit an error message that I've never got before, and I'm on the phone as quick as I can with the tech.
Do you know how to run the popcorn machine?
The popcorn machine was more complicated than the projector. I mean, I was more scared of that. But no, same thing. I know how to operate a lot of things in the theater now. I know a little bit what it's like to book a movie, how to call a movie agent. information and say, hey, when are these coming out, and what's it take to get these Christmas movies? So already I've learned a ton of things, but again, I'm well far from the place where I could sit back and be like, remember when I didn't know how to do this stuff? I'm still learning stuff.
You know, I love that you just shared that, because it talks a lot about several different components that I think are really important in human character. I've always believed that hard work and resourcefulness trumps talent every day of the week.
Agreed.
Education, all of it. Like, if you're willing to just put yourself out there and fail, you can move forward so much faster. And it sounds like that's been your whole life. You know, you put yourself in situations that were uncomfortable. You asked when you didn't know how to do it, and you just did it. And that's why all your friends are saying that you can totally do this.
I don't diminish education. I think education is awesome
I do
when
too.
you know what you want. Like, looking back, I'm like, I wish I had gone to Wake Tech and taken an audio editing, a video editing, and, you know, some
now
base
you know.
skills. Right. And, you know, obviously, like, hindsight 2020. But so I'm not diminishing education. I could have, there's probably things I could learn easier on the job if I had taken the specific classes for them off the job. And there was things that I did pick up in college, even if I didn't know that I was learning it, you know, at the time. So I don't diminish that. But no, I agree with you. And no one will ever accuse me of being the hardest worker.
You're resourceful.
The resourcefulness, 100%. When the job needs to get done, I'm there. Like, I mean, right now I'm spending, you know, hours at the theater, so I'm never going to shirk duty. I don't have that inner drive that I've got a sister who's a doctor, and she's one of those who could just sit down and read for 8 hours in a row the things she needed to do. The other thing about resourcefulness, I always remember this. I have 3 nieces. I have 5 total nieces and nephews, but 3 by my first sister that they're separate in age. So for a while I only had 3 nieces. I'm very close with them, and I would spend a lot of time with them, and they would be like, hey, I can't program this computer. I can't program my phone, or we can't get our Wii to work, whatever. And I'm like, I cannot show you how to fix these things, but what I can show you is how to learn how to fix things, like how to go to Google, how to go to YouTube, enter your problem, figure out the person that's like most likely if it's someone with a device or tuning a guitar, 1 million people have asked the same question. So I don't have all the answers, but I'm a pretty good student of life and knowing like where to ask people, who's smart, who I should listen to, and how to pick things up quickly to get started, and then add more and more knowledge as I go.
So how's it going at the theater? Because, you know, you're still pretty early into this.
It is going great. December was like the most fun month, even though I got sick in the middle of it and left a lot of duty to the other folks who they picked up the slack and did great. But December was this perfect mix of Christmas movies, you know, from Home Alone to It's a Wonderful Life that everybody wanted to see and was coming out with their families. Then we had shows on the weekend. The Embers played. We had a jazz show that was awesome, a couple other rock shows. And so it was this great blend of what we want to be, movies and live music. And it felt like we were giving people more than just a movie. We were doing fake snow.
I want to talk about that.
We were making people sing Christmas carols beforehand.
Because
and it just really felt like an experience. Like, that's what I think we can deliver.
Our last guest, and I want to talk about experiences because that is the differentiator. And I think that's what you have that maybe is not always articulated. Our last guest is an agent on our team, and she took her daughter to see The Grinch. And she was telling me about, you know, going in there and, you know, all the laughter and everything and walking out to fake snow coming down. What an experience for someone, because you can watch The Grinch at home. You can watch Home Alone at home, whatever. But to come out, people want to have an experience, right? So how is that playing into what you're doing across the board?
I think there's, you know, like Alamo Drafthouse already had taken up on some of this of like making things an experience more, you know, so we're learning from others who do it and then putting our twist in the way we can. I never would have thought, I think it was my wife's idea. I'm pretty sure it was her idea to do fake snow. And I knew it was going to be a good idea, but it was like a game changer. Like, even when it's 70 degrees outside and you know it's not snowing, but for some reason, after watching a Christmas movie, you open the doors and there's just enough glass in the doors and you see it and you're like, wait, is it snowing? And like, I don't know, maybe because
it's magical.
Maybe because we're from Raleigh and we don't get that much snow. Just even the glimmer of possibility of snow makes us tingle a little bit. But yeah, I think everything from, same thing, singing Christmas carols at the beginning, there's something powerful about a group collective experience. And one of my favorite ones was both, you know, Elf at the very end, they're singing Santa Claus is coming to town to try and lit the thing up. So it's almost like the movie is inviting you to sing along. And White Christmas is the exact same way, where it ends with them asking the crowd that's at the show to sing White Christmas with them. And so for both of those, we sang that song at the beginning, and I was like, and when it comes around at the end, sing along if you want, and you could hear it in the room. Maybe not everybody at full throat, but I think people enjoyed. It's just different than just going and sitting and watching a movie. When you're singing along with it, you're sitting next to someone. There's a room full of boisterous noise, as it should be at Christmas time, and then again walking out and seeing snowflakes.
It becomes an experience, and I think that's important in an entertainment perspective. So you're doing a little bit of everything. You want to make sure that you are staying true to what the Rialto was. So you're doing concerts.
Yep.
Comedy shows,
Yep.
a little bit of movies. What else is going on there?
And we're working up to doing more and more movies. There's a film club called Cinema Inc. That's been in the Triangle for like over 50 years, and they've met at the Rialto on the second Sunday of every month. And these people are super passionate. You can go to their website. It looks like a 1980s website, and it just has a list of all the movies they've ever shown. Going back, you look in season 1 in 1960 whatever. They showed these 12 movies. So we're bringing that back. We really are still committed to doing movies. There's a whole long answer of why first run movies are a little bit difficult. And in my opinion, studios need to learn to be a little more flexible with places like us, but we're working on that. But yeah, movies, concerts, comedy. And then one of the things I said going into it was, I probably don't even have what will be our best idea yet. Like, I've got some ideas. I know some things I want to try, but I think, this week actually we had, there was a high school student at Enloe, a 15-year-old, and he came to me. I know him through church. Our families know each other. And he said, Hayes, I want to put on an all high school, symphonic concert. He called it Chamber Pops Music Festival, of like playing. He's like, everybody wants like jazz quartets. He's like, we want to play oboe and flute and trombone and stuff. And so they did. They put it together. It's the same guys I used for, that was another thing we had at Christmas movies. We had this high school group playing Christmas tunes out front. And when you left, not every night, but a lot of the nights, that added to the atmosphere. But he organized this whole thing. And on President's Day, when they were out of school, we had a rehearsal and a show back to back. We fed them pizza in the middle, and it was truly like all student run. And it was really cool, very talented kids. And so stuff like that, I knew the community would come to me and say, hey, we've got an idea of something we want to do. I've got a group of nonprofit leaders meeting this evening at the Rialto, showing a documentary that's like specific to their field, and then they're going to have a discussion afterwards. I've got another a documentary that I'm partnering with a farm to do too. So we've got, and other comedy people have come to me, said ideas they've got, other music people, all kinds of bands have come at me. So people are still coming to me with good ideas in addition to the ones that we feel like we've got and are trying to roll out there. So.
Well, that's a testament to what you're doing, that people are getting behind it like that. And that's got to feel good to you.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's a lot of testament to the Rialto too. I mean, everyone's got a Rialto story, a Rialto memory. And so I thought, if we throw the doors open and tell people, bring your creative energy here, then I think Raleigh people will answer the call. So, yeah.
So what does success look like for you? What's your business plan look like for the future of the Rialto?
I'm sure my very kind investors, all of whom came from the neighborhood and are friends of mine, would say, let's make our money back and let's be good stewards of the business. But no, even they have much loftier goals than making money. Nobody invested in this because they thought this will be the way that I will make a lot of money, right? They invested in it because they had the same belief I do of like, Raleigh should grow and build, and we need more tall buildings, and people are coming here, and we need to build large apartments, and we need condos and all those things. So I'm not knocking condos. I'm not anti-development. I am not a keep Raleigh a museum person, I promise. But there are things that help define the city we are, right? And I love that there's that building that's going to go in that char grill lot, but let's figure out a way, darn it, to keep char grill integrated. And let's find a way
on the bottom floor,
to do both, and keep that signage on the front of the building somehow. So same thing with the Rialto. I'd love nothing more than to have I'm supportive of apartment buildings going in and around 5 Points because people need places to live. But trying to preserve it is important to me. So success for me is just, if we're still doing this in 20 years, we're successful. Like I need to, my wife, as an attorney, she makes great money. So as a family, we're fortunate to make good money. I aspire to do well running the Rialto, but financial success won't define the Rialto for me. If it is open and we are bringing, by being open, I mean that we've reached a point where we're doing the program we want. If we have to go back to being an all movie house, I'm not opposed to it, but that's probably not where my passion lies, and I might then step aside and let somebody run that side of it. If I'm going to be involved in running the day-to-day like I am now, I'm going to continue to want, diverse music and diversity in music, from bluegrass to, R&B music to jazz, all kinds of stuff, classical. We've got the North Carolina Master Chorale, we've had the Durham Symphony, and then diversity in the type of movies we want to show. I've got a meeting this week with somebody about doing some movies during Pride Month. I know we can't be everything to everyone, but there is enough room in there for creativity that reaches all kinds, and also still be a very good neighborhood theater. I met recently with the people that put on Fall for 5 Points, and there's there's bands from the neighborhood that want to play. I'm talking to Underwood about doing their 5th grade graduation. So being a good neighbor is a huge part of the Rialto, because it's as much as we want to attract people from all over. We hope, we've had people come from New Bern to come see our shows. They call and they're asking, what is 5 Points? Where do I park? But obviously it starts with having the support and connection to the neighborhood.
I love that. And there's two parts to that I want to point out. I think that money always follows passion. And when you do something that you're passionate about and you pour your heart into it, that you don't need to worry about the other stuff, because it's coming. And being a community steward is a huge piece. And it's one of the things that, we find people who are moving into Raleigh all the time. They're coming from all the major cities. Raleigh is a great place to integrate, and they get here and they love it, but they don't know why they love it. And they love it because Raleigh has done a great job through people like you of keeping that sense of community and still being true to the roots of Raleigh, while also accepting that Raleigh is growing. And being a community steward is a huge thing. It's part of why we started this podcast. We want to feature people who are doing great things, and we want to build community through real estate, because it's here and it's happening. And I think that's where the magic is for you. And I'm excited to see what happens with the Rialto. So what kind of events, what things do you have coming up that we want to make sure people know about?
So we've got, depending on exactly when this comes out, we got the Oscars coming up in a little bit. So we're showing Barbie this week, and then the week of the Oscars, we're showing the Oscar-nominated short films, which is something that the Rialto has done for years. They're really cool. They're about 5 films in each category. There's live action one night, animated one night, documentary one night, and then I think we're doing the live action again. And so they're just 5 films, anywhere from like 5 to 20 minutes, and they're a good chance to see, especially if you're in one of those Rialto, one of those Oscar pools. You can see the films yourself and sort of make your picks. We've got a ton of great concerts coming up. Amethyst. Now I forgot her name, but Kate Rudy is someone from Raleigh, who's her show is selling like hotcakes. There's a guy named Jake Blount. I'm not sure exactly how to say his name, but he had an NPR Tiny Desks concert. He was amazing. A lot of good, Americana, folky, bluegrassy type stuff. And then some other rock shows. One that I actually can't say, I think we're announcing next week.
We'll stay tuned.
That'll be cool. And then announcing some other big names that are coming up in the fall. So we continue to do a comedy show every month. And then starting back in March on the 1st, 3rd, and when it happens, 5th Fridays, Rocky Horror will be returning at midnight too. So everybody gets excited about that.
So we need to do a Coley Group buyout for that theater and
definitely
invite all of our clients to see that, because that is an experience.
You have to. Again, you are not from Raleigh, or you don't live in Raleigh. Don't call yourself a Raleigh resident unless you've come to see Rocky Horror at the Rialto at midnight. You got to stay up late. I know people are going to bed earlier now, but it's worth it. It really is cool. It is much like everybody has their club, whether it's a running club or a mahjong club or whatever, or small theater groups. These Rocky folks are super passionate about what they do. They work really, really hard, and that's when you have fun. When you're working really hard with the team doing something, they work really hard to put on Rocky, make it special, keep it special, and it's just like it's endearing to watch them. They rehearse. They have all these props, huge production, and so I knew what Rocky Horror was, but like seeing about behind the scenes, you get to see the people that make it happen, and you're like, this is awesome. Yeah.
Well, we're excited to see that. I think that's a mic drop moment. But where can everybody find all the info, get on the newsletter, everything they need to know about the Rialto?
We got a great website, therialto.com. Our social media is too good because there are other Rialtos out there, and we get tagged in their stuff. And I'm not going to get into it, but like there's a Rialto somewhere else in the United States, and they've got they found themselves a little bit of a hot cultural controversy. And so I keep getting tagged, and I'm like, this is not us. This is not. Usually it says in there, the state that they're in. So I don't think that it's really hurting us. But every now and then there's a comment, and I'm like, I realize you're upset about something, but that's not us. So find us at therialto.com or the.rialto on Instagram or TikTok or some of those other places. And on the website, you can sign up for the newsletter. We're usually in touch about once a week and putting out special stuff. And in the future, right now, just being on our newsletter will probably get you early access to some tickets. Like I said,
we like early access.
The Chatham County Line show sold out very quickly. So, and I know the front row sold out, VIP sold out. In the future, we will probably have some sort of Friends of the Rialto program or membership that for a fee gets you some merchandise, and then we'll probably be the thing to get you that early ticket access. But right now, just get on that newsletter, and you'll probably get some cool stuff.
And we will drop all the links below. Hayes, thank you so much for joining us. You guys have learned so much about Hayes, about the Rialto. I would love to hear if you've got some great memories or have had some great experiences from this new version of the Rialto run by Hayes. We'd love to hear about it. It would help all of us. And I want to say thank you so much for joining us in the Best of Raleigh, where we talk about the people, places, and the businesses that make this community so special to live in. We appreciate you following the journey. And if you want to stay in the loop on everything going on in Raleigh and get to know the people behind the magic, you'll want to hit the follow button and follow the Best of Raleigh. We drop a new episode every Friday on Spotify, Apple, and on YouTube. And we love being your community advisors for all things Raleigh, not just real estate. But if you're looking to make a move in the Triangle, we want to be your go-to. So you can reach out to us at all the information below, and we'll see you at the Rialto for Rocky Horror Picture Show on the Best of Raleigh. See you later.
Thank you.